How's it going, guys? Randall aka Shizukatz here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel, and today I'll be profiling the Goldbar choice deck for Miss Kobayashi's Maid Dragon. There are many different builds to look through for Kobayashi, but this is one of my personal favorites, making great use of some of the most powerful and unique cards that the set has to offer. Let's hop right in. Starting with the climax combos, we have the Goldbar level 1 Tohru and the choice level 3 Tohru. The level 1 sits at 5500 power if you have 2 or more other human or dragon trait characters, which is basically the entire set, making it trivial to accomplish. Her climax combo is an on-attack top check up to 3, add 1 to hand, and send the rest to waiting room. This climax combo is quite unique in that it can grab any type of card to add to your hand, even climaxes, and you don't have to show your opponent the card you added. The main idea behind using this climax combo is to continuously grab Goldbar climaxes to combo repeatedly turn after turn, and other cards we play in the deck will help to support that strategy. At level 3, we have the Tohru choice combo. On play, she heals 1, and on attack with the choice climax, you can either burn 1 for free, or you can pay 2 and discard a human or dragon character to burn for however much we want. That's right, you literally just declare any number you want and burn for that much damage. If you're in a position where you need a big chunk of damage to stick in order to achieve a victory, declare a big number and pray. But if your opponent is 2 or 3 damage away, you can declare those precise smaller numbers instead. Between the flexibility of the finisher effect, plus the on-play heal, plus the great climax trigger, we have plenty of reasons to choose this as our level 3 combo. Now let's get into the level 0 line. Our first pick is basically a mandatory inclusion in any Kobayashi deck due to how strong it is, the level 0 Tohru Center Runner from the trial deck. This powerful card sits at 3500 power while also being a center runner, meaning the opponent has to field powerful attackers in multiple lanes if they want to have any chance at defeating her. This makes her the prime card to have in our opening hand, allowing us to easily defeat opposing threats on our own turn, while being able to run away from danger or even run in front of the opponent's weak attackers when it's their turn. Her downside is that the opponent's characters can encore for 2 stock instead of 3, which will sometimes come up against more astute opponents, but will more often than not go unused. I run 3 copies of the Iruru Fukajiro as a way to filter better quality into our hand. Our level 1 game plan revolves around looping the Tohru Goldbar combo, but we can't begin looping if we don't have her in our hand in the first place. Additionally, this effect fills up the waiting room with more potential targets for cards such as our Brainstorm or Choice Climaxes. Speaking of Brainstorm, our next card is one of the most important pieces of the deck, the Kobayashi Brainstorm. Apart from being a salvage Brainstorm, which is already a great start, Kobayashi has a secondary effect that can be activated if we have a full board of human and or dragon characters, resting herself to draw 1 card and discard a card. In game states where our hand size is already good and we don't need the extra cards, but we still want to try to improve the quality of our hand, we can use this effect instead of the Brainstorm. Sometimes this effect can even draw us into events or climaxes that we couldn't get otherwise. The Kobayashi Brainstorm has one final effect that we don't utilize in this deck, but we will come back to it in a later part of the video when we go over some of the alternative options for the deck. The next level 0 is our other back row to go alongside the Kobayashi Brainstorm, which is the Swimsuit Kobayashi. She can rest herself to give one of our other characters 1500 power until end of turn, and she can also sacrifice herself if she's in the back row to save one of our other characters when they get sent to the waiting room. Between the Kobayashi Salvage Brainstorm and this Swimsuit Kobayashi, it's pretty easy to retain multiple Tohru level 1 combos to use them again and again. And of course, the 1500 power boost is nothing to scoff at either. Closing out our level 0 line are some one-of utility pieces. Up first is this Kobayashi, who has 2 utility effects. First, on play we can discard a human or dragon character to search our deck for either the Kobayashi Brainstorm or any character that has Resonate abilities. Even with 4 copies of the Kobayashi Brainstorm in our deck, we want her both on our field as well as in our hand in order to utilize certain Resonate abilities in the deck, so this is a great way to get additional copies. Her other ability is what you might hear us sometimes call a helmet effect, named after Bomb Disposal Squad Kanata from Hololive, where we discard any card and sack the Kobayashi to salvage any character from our waiting room. This is a 2-for-1 exchange, meaning we are losing a card, but sometimes we're in a position where we can afford to lose a card for an overall better play. The Kana Drop Search is our next one of, having the standard on-play pay 1 discard 1 search effect, but also gives another character in the front row center slot +1 soul. Throughout most of the game, this just serves as additional pressure on our opponent as we threaten more damage potential, but it can create some tricks in the late game by giving side attack opportunities as well. The next card is a Tohru. When she's placed on stage from hand, we can discard a climax to salvage any character. Additionally, when we play any climax, we can bounce her back to our hand to give one of our characters 1000 power until the end of the opponent's next turn. This is a good card to use at any point in the game, but I feel it's especially great on the turn after we've done our first set of climax combos with the level 1 Tohru and are looking to go for another round. Usually a spot in the back row will be open after using the Swimsuit Kobayashi to save one of our Tohrus, which gives us a slot to play this card into. Additionally, Tohru might have grabbed an extra climax that we can discard to salvage back yet another copy of the Tohru combo, and we can bounce her back to the hand when we play a climax to give our Tohru a small boost, as well as potentially reuse her on a future turn. The final level 0 in the list is the Kobayashi Climax Swapper, a very simple card that allows us to have the climax we need when we need it, as long as we have any climax in our hand already. Since the Tohru level 1 combo can grab climaxes, if we have the Climax Swapper in our hand and grab a choice climax, we can use the Climax Swap ability to get the Goldbar again for the next turn. Moving on to our level 1 line, we have a few cards being run alongside our Tohru combos, but since our strategy is so centered around looping the combo again and again, these other level 1s are mostly utility and tech cards. First up are 2 copies of the 1-0 Tohru Bonder, which is another way we can access our Kobayashi Brainstorm. She also gains 3k power when played, allowing her to be a reasonable 6500 attacker. The next 2 are a couple tech choices. First up is the 1-1 Iruru from the trial deck. When placed on stage from hand, if we have 4 or more other characters already on stage, we get to put a human or dragon character from our waiting room into stock, refunding her cost and allowing her to essentially be played as a 1-0. Additionally, she gets 4k on play if we have another human or dragon character, which should be implied as we're aiming to play Iruru into a full board anyway. This card is intended to be used as a counter to the popular 1-1 Nino from Quintessential Quintuplets, which cannot be reversed by cost 0 characters. That being said, it's still a solid attacker into any matchup, but we only run 1, as running more than 1 leaves us potentially vulnerable to drawing both copies, which isn't very ideal. We also run 1 copy of the Iruru level 2 killer, going from 4k to 10k when attacking level 2s. As our main level 1 character, the Tohru combo, doesn't quite have the offensive power to try to contest 2-2s such as Nino combo or Ghislaine, this Iruru offers a bit of extra offense against those cards. Additionally, the opponent cannot play backups during this card's attack, making it impossible for some decks such as Mushoku Tensei to defend their 2-2s, while also being potentially useful against decks that can utilize powerful defensive backups, such as Hololive. Finally, I run 1 copy of the Rico backup. This is a 1-1 2k backup that refunds the stock if all of your characters are human or dragon, essentially turning it into a 1-0 counter. However, since it has a soul trigger, the card can be picked up off a choice trigger if needed. At level 2, just like the level 1 line, I chose to include just a couple tech options. First is the 2-1 Elma from the trial deck, who can gain up to 5000 power on play and can memory kick opponents' Chi reverses. This is an extremely useful removal tool to potentially get rid of cards that your opponent really wants to keep around, such as cards with Encore or high value early plays. The 2-1 Tohru Anti-Change Bomb more or less serves the same purpose, but is better suited against decks that will have high enough power that Elma cannot reach them, such as Kanata and Hololive backed up by counters. Tohru also has an effect that allows you to give 1 soul to a character when you trigger any climax, which can sometimes just come in for a free point of damage on the turn you play her. To round out the level 2 line, I run 2 copies of the Kobayashi free refresh counter, which serves as a get me out button in the event that you trigger too many climaxes. Since the Tohru finisher combo has an option that costs no stock, I felt that it would be fine to potentially use 3 stock on the free fresh in order to get into a better overall position if needed. For early plays, I run 4 copies of the level 3 Tohru and Kobayashi, which can be early played if we have 4 or more human or dragon characters on stage. When they're placed on stage from hand, I can use their Resonance ability by revealing the level 0 Kobayashi Brainstorm in my hand in order to either heal 1 or burn 1. Having the flexibility between the 2 options is very helpful, as each has their own usefulness depending on whether you're ahead or behind. However, it is important that you're able to secure the Kobayashi Brainstorm in order to use these effects at all, which is why I run 4 copies, as well as other cards like the level 0 Kobayashi Helmet and level 1 Tohru Bonder in order to have easier access to it. The final character I run in the deck is a 1 of Tohru. She has on play draw 2 discard 1, which can be helpful in finding the level 3 climax if we don't already have it, or just fueling discard costs. Her other effect is on attack discard 2 cards to mill the bottom 4 cards of the opponent's deck and burn for X damage, where X is the number of climaxes among the milled cards. This ability is a very helpful tool against heavily compressed decks to potentially eat through a lot of climaxes in a single action. Lastly, I run 2 copies of the 3-2 event. This event is both a stock swap and salvage 1 together, and while it's a bit inconvenient to have to commit 2 stock even if you only want one part of the effect or the other, stock swap is always a good option to include in your decks when you have access to one. For the game plan, at level 0 you will want to be prioritizing your Tohru runner, and try to avoid committing too many cards onto the board in the early game. Your main goal should be collecting pieces for your level 1 game like your level 1 combos and Goldbar, while your secondary goal should be getting pieces that can recur the combo back, such as Swimsuit Kobayashi or the Ditch Climax Salvage Tohru. At level 1 and 2, you're typically just going to be spamming your combo whenever possible, while filling in any gaps with applicable tech options if the opportunity arises. Cards like the 1-1 Iruru and 2-1 Elma can be used to great effect in specific situations, but it's going to vary from matchup to matchup. Additionally, at level 2, you gain the option to put the early plays to work. The decision of whether to burn or heal is not always clear, and should depend on a multitude of factors such as both you and your opponent's deck states and damage. At level 3, you're mainly going to be looking to play your Tohru combos, but you have other options depending on the situation. Your early plays can serve as an on-play burn 1, and you also have access to the Michiru effect on the green level 3 Tohru. I'll typically try to go into level 3 with at least one copy of each, and a second copy of the level 3 combo, as this allows me to keep my options open. Your color priority is very simple in this deck, as it's only 2 colors. Green should be your first priority as it's your level 1 combo color, with yellow being prioritized after. Next, let's go over a couple alternative deck styles that you could try running. First is the 8 Goldbar setup, which runs the Iruru level 3. This deck has a couple notable differences in deck structure compared to this Goldbar choice deck. First, due to not having choice climaxes, it doesn't need to accommodate nearly as many soul triggers, so it can run significantly less higher level cards and run a ton of level 0s for a stable early game. Additionally, thanks to the 8 Goldbar climax lineup, it's significantly easier to make use of the Tohru Ditch Climax Salvage, so typically you will want to run more copies of this card. It typically goes for the same game plan throughout the first few levels, but at level 3, the Iruru combo is very all-in. She doesn't have any on-play heal effect, instead choosing to go for full aggression. If you aren't able to kill your opponent with the combo turn, it'll probably be pretty easy for your opponent to try to kill you afterwards. Another interesting variation of this deck is one that runs 3 different climaxes, using the Tohru 2-1 Stock Soul combo. This combo lets you top check up to 3 cards from the top of your deck for up to 3 characters to add to your hand, and additionally gives Tohru a marker that can be used to give your characters extra soul when attacking. It can make turns where you don't have a climax in play much more dangerous by increasing your damage output with the effect. And since the additional soul is optional, it gives you tons of options on how much you want your characters to be attacking for each turn. One big bonus of the 2-1 Tohru is that the level 0 Kobayashi Brainstorm gains a global 1k power effect while you have this Tohru in play. If you want to bring out the full potential of the Brainstorm, definitely consider trying this version of the deck out. It's a bit more chaotic thanks to the triple climax lineup, but it can be really fun to play with all of the options that the 2-1 Tohru gives you. Overall, the level 1 Goldbar Tohru combo has a lot of potential options that you can branch into, as the combo is fairly easy to use. However, it does suffer from the innate inability to contest bigger boards due to its fairly low power. Additionally, while we do run some specific tech cards in this list, realistically you're only able to address so many things while still being able to use climax combos and maintain your overall main game plan. So if the opponent is able to put multiple bodies that all need addressing, it can get a bit out of control and can end up being a bit too much for this deck to handle. That being said, if you're playing in an environment where you can safely just triple combo over and over, and not have too much trouble with specific opposing cards, this deck can put in some pretty good work. And that wraps it up for our deck profile on the Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid Goldbar Choice deck. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for our upcoming gameplay block, where you'll be able to see multiple different Kobayashi builds in action. Until then, this has been Randall, aka Shizukatz, on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. See ya!